Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Educated Call Snap channel. How you doing? So today we are going to be discussing a post by our good friend Raven, RavenCasts. He had a Snap Nerf prediction slash wish list, which I thought was pretty interesting. I kind of wanted to cover it. So basically, when people have been asking me about what I think the patch is going to be, I pretty much just say, "Oh, I don't know. Let's just see what it is." I don't want to, have hope and then have it dashed away, basically. So I kind of just like dealing with whatever is reality, and I don't want to like say, "Oh, I wish this would happen," and then the patch comes out and I'm very disappointed. So usually it's not really my style, but I did think that his predictions and wish lists were interesting enough that I wanted to talk about it. So let's get into it. So here we have a list of their thoughts, I guess. I will post a link to it, so if you want to read it yourself. But yeah, he has a couple of them. So he has nerfs. Main one being Red Skull from 15 to 13 power. So that one, I want to kind of go through them. That one I think is pretty reasonable. Like Shuri. It's interesting though. Like there's not a lot of nerfs here. Shuri's not being changed according to this. They're really just saying Shuri's not the problem. It's Red Skull. I don't know if that's true. Actually, I know it's not true. Personally, I know Shuri is the problem, but Red Skull is like making the deck kind of very easy to execute, I guess. Where you just put down 30 power, it's hard for a board to contest 30 power, and then the Taskmaster copies that 30 power into another lane, right? Like this is a hard thing to deal with, especially with the armor and the Cosmo. It's hard to get rid of that 30 power, even if you want to do it some way. So definitely think Red Skull does affect it, but I don't think that's the main problem with Shuri. I think Shuri is just a really good card. And even if you remove Red Skull from the game, Shuri will still have like a very powerful place in the meta. So I don't know if that's like if that is the only nerf I would like to see. I think I would like to see more changes to the deck list, making it less accessible or easy to execute. Though this Red Skull would nerf things, but I don't think it would like solve the problem. But it also make Red Skull awkward to play in non-Shuri lists, right? Because let's say you wanted to play Red Skull in a non-Shuri list, this thing is like not that good anymore. Where if four cards are being played, this thing is only 5 power for 5. That's really bad. So I think I would just do something for Shuri instead of changing Red Skull. I think Red Skull has its places. It works in like Dracula lists and just like general big stats cards. So it's good into Throne Room, that kind of thing. So I don't know if I like this change personally, but this is the change he predicted. So the nerfs are his predictions. I hope Secondary doesn't do this one. I would not be that pleased with the change. And then Quinjet minimum 1. This one I'd probably be okay with. This one I think is more acceptable, just because being able to get 0 power cards is just really powerful in the game. Like cost reduction is really good, and the fact that you're spending 1 mana to play Quinjet, and then Quinjet could like potentially save you, especially with Thanos, like 5, 6, 7 mana worth of cards is just absolutely insane to me. I just don't like that philosophy. So I think I would definitely be okay with this nerf for Quinjet for sure. So this nerf I think I'm pretty okay with. So I wouldn't be disappointed with that one compared to the Red Skull one. Additional nerfs: Space Stone, Soul Stone removes card draw. This one I don't know if I like. I just don't think you want to remove card draw with the stones. I think the stones need to be able to draw for it to feel good. If the stones are broken, you have to like change the effect and not the card draw aspect of it, in my opinion. So I don't think I'm happy with the remove card draw part of this. If the stones are broken, I would change maybe the stat line, maybe the abilities. I wouldn't change the card draw aspect personally because I think you need that draw to really feel good about playing the stones. If the stones don't give you card draw, then they're dead cards, right? It becomes a really bad card to play, I guess. So I'm not a fan of this one. So he's probably suggesting that because those are like some of the better stones, but I think all the stones are pretty good. So it's kind of arbitrary which ones you nerf, right? Because you're basically losing card draw across the board. So I don't know if I like this nerf for Thanos. I think I would just change their effects or change their base stats if I were to do something like this. Cosmo going for a 3-3 or a 3-2, I absolutely hate. I think Cosmo does not need any nerfs. Personally, I wouldn't even mind if you buff Cosmo. That's that's like I think you need something to deal with um on reveal cards, and Cosmo's like the only thing that deals with on reveal right now. So there's not a good answer to on reveal things. So you need Cosmo to feel good to play. If you nerf Cosmo like this, it's just gonna be less played and it's just gonna feel super weird. So I don't like this Cosmo nerf at all. I definitely think they should do something else. Aero staying the same as a prediction and Leech staying the same as a prediction. So this is not what they think is gonna. This is not what they want, but this is what they predict will happen. In terms of prediction, I could see this happening. I could actually see Aero and Leech not being changed. They do feel like they don't want to change Leech. They like how it fits in the metagame. They maybe just don't like how it interacts with like not Time Stone and Lockjaw, but these changes don't really solve that. So they probably have to do something to affect to kind of influence that reality. So personally, I think Aero should be changed in some way. Now, what do you want to do for Aero? That one's hard to say. Like Aero is such a uniquely strong card that it's really hard to say because it originally was 6 base power and it wasn't seeing play. Then they buffed it to 8, then it was seeing too much play, and they buffed it to 7, and then it was still seeing too much play. Still like one of the best cards in the game. Even if they buffed it back to 6, I think it'll still see a lot of play. So it just kind of showcases like the players didn't know how good Aero was when it was out, which is funny but understandable. But maybe you could move it down to 6. You could also change its cost and its base power. If you could make it a 6 cost, you can make it a 4 cost. Change the base power or something, make it less one dimensional. So that is something you can do. I actually have no idea what they're doing with Aero. I think it's a uniquely strong card, so I actually have no idea what they would do with Aero. I really just want to know if they're going to change Aero at all. Leech as well. Some people have been suggesting that Leech only reacts for 1 turn, and I think that's an interesting solution, and it's a solution that might work because it still fulfills what Leech wants to do. You play it on 5 and it neutralizes the board state for the turn 6. And if anyone wants to ramp into it, it's not as good. So that could definitely be a solution that I think might work. He could also make it not target all the cards in the opponent's hand. Maybe make it target like 3 cards. And then there's a chance, it's not going to completely screw the opponent player. I actually think that one's less elegant because you're adding more RNG. It's hard to predict how your opponent's going to play if it's only targeting a set number of cards and not every card in their hand. So that one I think is worse in my opinion because it's more RNG added into the game, and the game's already a ton of RNG. So I think I would prefer the 1 turn effect more than the set number of cards. But you could also do something else, right? But I think if you do something else, you're basically going to change how Leech functions. And I would rather you make a new card with that ability. Like, let's say it affects the next card your opponent plays. Some people have suggested that, right? I'd rather you just have a new card that does that instead of affecting Leech. So, you could argue Leech might not be a problem if Time Stone Lockjaw didn't exist, but that's not true because people will Electro Leech you. So I do think it is still a problem even without that. It's just a bigger problem in the Thanos metagame. So here are some of the buffs. The buffs are interesting for sure. So Mordo is when your opponent next draws a card, change its cost to 6. So this one doesn't draw your opponent a card. It just makes your next opponent draw really bad. So that one is like crazy good, I would say. I would probably play that just generically. Like I would like instead of going Iceman Scorpion, I'd probably go Iceman Mordo if that was the ability. So like I could see it, but like that card is so toxic, right? Like but I could see it. But yeah. Doctor Strange is also getting buffed. It's going from a 3 cost 3 power to 2 cost 2 power, which is very, very strong. I think Doctor Strange would be like really good if you did that. I don't know how comfortable I am with Doctor Strange being that good. But then again, like it's kind of bad right now, so I don't mind like experimenting and seeing if changes like this will like affect the metagame in a big way. The problem I have is this doesn't really buff move decks. It buffs playing Doctor Strange in regular decks. That's what it does. And I don't know if that's like the game plan of Doctor Strange making it playable everywhere, but it would be played more if you made this change, so I could see it, but it seems really good to me, right? You think that like the problem I have with this is like you play a big guy on 5 and then you move it on 6 and they try to Shang-Chi you or something, and I was like, nope, I'm gonna move it. So that's the issue I could have. Like it could be just a frustrating card like this. So that's the one like caveat I have here, but it is an interesting change. Nick Fury going for a 5/7 or 5/8 is like very standard. I'm okay with this. Like, okay, sure, whatever. Like, this isn't going to break the bank, but it might make it more played. I don't know, like in Dino decks, I guess. But it's not a crazy change. Miles is getting the stature treatment where instead of it being last turn, it's this game. So it just if you're playing a move deck, this will always cost 1. This is a healthy, I guess, change for Miles, even though Miles is pretty good right now. Well, maybe not. It's playable right now. Pretty good is a little bit too generous, but it's playable right now. But I do think this would help Miles be in a little bit more decks. So, and it's also if a card move this game, like it's so free. Like it's so free. Like if one of your cards move this game, like let's make it a little bit harder to activate. No, I think I would definitely prefer it to be a little bit harder to activate, but I'm down for something like that in that ballpark. Silver Surfer going from a 3 to a 3/3. I think it's fine. Honestly, Silver Surfer is like almost great. I do think maybe an extra +1/+1. I mean, an extra 1 power might be enough to make it playable. The one downside of this is that you would turn off Surfer Cerebro decks. Though that those decks are not that popular right now because it just doesn't compete with Thanos or Shuri, but that's the one thing that like ooh, the Surfer Cerebro decks were kind of cool, but it's not that important. I think I'm fine with buffing Silver Surfer generally. So I'm down with this buff. Gambit cannot target immune cards. I'm assuming this can still target things like Wolverine and cards that want to get destroyed. It's just like, let's say you armor a lane and you play this, it won't hit a card in the armored lane. I'm actually fine with a change like this. I think this would make it better to play. So I'm okay with a change like that. Now, I'm not sure if there's like some broken combo you could do if you make this change. But currently, I guess I'm okay with it. So here are the like the wish list bots out of infinite. Obviously, I'm a big proponent. I agree with that. I think bots. There's too many bots, but personally, I think you just like keep this the same and then make a real ranked ladder. That's kind of what I would be like, where you have only human matches and stuff like that, and even though the time to play a game is longer, you're gonna have better matches. I'm down with that. No back-to-back matches basically means you're not going to fight the same player back to back. So this happens to me a lot where since it's hard for me to get a player, if I get a player and then they queue again and I queue again, I'll get them again almost every time. And as long as we keep queuing, I will always get that person every time. So I've had the situation where I fight the same person like 7 times in a row because that's the only person I could possibly get. So they're my only opponent. As long as they keep queuing, which feels weird personally. Like I don't feel like I'm in I'm in the game. Like I'm playing battle mode on rank queue for some reason. So I think if you solve some of the other problems, this won't be an issue. But currently, it is an issue. But it's weird because like if I don't get that person, I'm just getting a bot. So like I prefer to get the person, even though it's like after like the 4th game, I don't want to play him anymore. Like I already know who's winning that deck. But like right now it's like I guess it's fine. But like if they fix it, then this would be very annoying. Ranked having more matchmaking weight. Right now, I don't think ranked really has much matchmaking weight, if at all. I do know matchmaking, the rank will, if you're above 70, then the matchmaking will change a little bit, where you can get infinite players and your collection doesn't really matter as much. But in terms of like most games, rank doesn't really matter. So definitely think it makes sense for rank 60s to fight rank 60s and stuff like that, where right now it's like if you're 70 you can fight infinite players, which I don't love. So I'm down with that. An MMR reset, I would say I would prefer an MMR ceiling instead of a reset, because if you have a reset it's going to be chaos for a while, for like the next month, where people are trying to figure out where they are, where if everyone's starting like it'd be, I guess if you make rank have more matchmaking weight, this could be solved somewhat quickly. But the thing is, you're inflating people's rank right now because of the bonus cubes. Almost everyone's gonna, well, a lot of people are gonna be infinite that wouldn't have been infinite before. So it's kind of an inflated rank right now. And if you reset the MMR into this season, like the matches are not gonna feel very balanced, but they already don't feel balanced. So I guess it would still be better. But I would maybe prefer like a ceiling where, like for me, even though the rank resets, I'm like way higher than most players. Where if you had a ceiling, I would go down to most players, and then we could play from there. Whereas if you just drop everyone to the same rank, then like I've seen that one before. So maybe I prefer like a MMR ceiling, so that you couldn't start like way higher than most people. You'd have to start in some range. Season drops from highest rank, not current. So I've thought about this one. I actually don't like it, because what will happen is people will just abuse that the notion that they're safe, right? If they hit rank 70 and they're happy with like the very reward, they don't want to push for anything else. Well, then they control for the rest of the season, right? They could go down to rank 0 or whatever, and then like they start the next season rank 40 or whatever. Like that you don't want to encourage that behavior, and players will abuse it completely, because that's how players really like to do things. Even the infinite floor, I actually don't think is that healthy for the game, because we've seen what happens. People hit infinite and then they just abuse the floor, just giving people cubes, or losing tons of games until they're in bot matches, blah, blah, blah. It just gets fully abused. So even the infinite floor, I'm like, I don't like this activity from our players. So even that I don't like. So this season reset dropping from highest rank will kind of encourage that same behavior, but on a much bigger scale, where most people will be like, I hit the rank I'm happy with. I'm not gonna care. Let's just troll around. And I don't think you really want that behavior, especially if it's like a rank queue. if it, like this, I don't think the current matchmaking system's like a rank queue, so like you could do whatever you want. But if it does become more polished and more similar to a rank queue, then I really don't like that behavior. And then leaderboards, I think leaderboards really only affecting the people that hit infinite, and that's like a pretty low percentage of the player base. So I don't think it's like a priority for them. But it would be cool because it is nice to know if you're like highest rank, or if other people are like catching up to you, things like that. But right now we just don't know. We have to use like third party websites to really get a grasp of it. And with the bots it doesn't matter anyway, so these things are not too important. And then the extras. So I have a personal preference. Like if I had one thing out of the game that I could add, regardless of the matchmaking, the card acquisition, all that blah blah blah, I would say give me a draft mode. Give me a draft game in the client. I can play draft. No hassle. I would love that. It's where I come from. I played Hearthstone Arena. That's when I started streaming. So it's definitely something I really resonate with. So that's the one thing I'd love to see, but I don't know if they're working on it. Yeah, so yeah, we'll see. But battle mode ladder. So this is like a pure battle mode ranked. That one I think is okay if they want to do that. More in-game music. I don't hear the music at all, so I don't even know what musics they are. I don't hear the voice lines, I don't hear the music, so I don't care. But I'm sure if you do listen to music, it probably gets annoying after like the 30th hour. ET on PC client release. That's a hilarious wish list. I want to know when they're going to start on the PC client. He's already given up. He's not even like, tell me. I want the PC client. He's like, tell me when you're gonna start on it. that's funny, and that just goes to show you how beat down they are on that topic, that they're not even willing to stand up for it. Unlock board if snap when already pressed end turn. So if you end your turn and then your opponent snaps, you should be able to react to that snap and change your place. I completely agree with this. I think it's so silly that if the opponent waits until the end of the game to snap and you've already ended your turn, you can't react to that snap. That's such a bad like understanding of how the game is played at a high level. So I definitely would love if they could undo your ending turn if your opponent snaps. That one I love. Visual timer for snap acceptance. That one I also think would help, because let's say you've ended your turn and then they snap and end your turn. You have a couple seconds to decide where you want to leave now that they snapped, but there's no visual indicator for like how much exact time you have. And I think that can definitely throw you off if you're like, ooh, I need to think about the snap, but then the time's up, it's moving on to the next turn, and you might have wanted to leave. So definitely think if they had a visual indicator so how much time you had before you can leave would be helpful. And then a search filter collection by artist variant type. I would like that. I mean, there's no real downside to that. I'd also like to also search by how much boosters you have on a card. So the card with the most boosters would be at the top and then down. And I'd also like to search by most boosters ever. So basically the cards you've upgraded or the cards you've farmed the most boosters on would be at the top. So this one's different because the first one would be current boosters, and then the next one would be all boosters like you've ever collected on the account or on the card. I would like to have those two filters, because usually the cards you have the most boosters are the most popular cards that you put in the deck list. So these cards are, you could probably make a deck and like put 5 of them in already because you love these cards. So I would like to have that kind of filter system. That's what I prefer more than artist and variant type. I don't really care too much about that, but functionality, that's me, And make boosters neutral. There's no way they're gonna do that. You need a way. You need a way for people to farm in the game, and because there's no progression really from farming, so boosters like the only way you can really feel progression from farming. And if you make it neutral, then people that play a lot after like a month will be able to farm every card they want, And I just don't think they're going to do that. You have to make people want to play their new cards and whatnot. So I just can't see that ever happening. But overall, I did want to talk about these, I guess, these predictions, these wish lists. These are interesting. I definitely think in terms of the nerfs, I think the nerfs are like a little bit lacking. I'd like to see more buffs, and then I'd also like to see like more targeted nerfs. I like the Quinjet one the most, but I think Shuri still needs to be addressed, and Thanos needs to be addressed in some way. The Quinjet nerf does help, but I don't know if that's gonna solve Thanos, right? Like some games, people don't hit Quinjet and they still win. Like you know what I mean? Like it's not like, oh my god, Thanos only wins if they draw Quinjet on one. That's not true at all. So I don't think that's like the best solution. I do think it's a start in the right direction, but Thanos decks still win without Quinjet, obviously. So that one is I think isn't the only change you could do and have it be meaningful and impactful. Like if they make a patch, it's very unlikely that they're going to make another patch very quickly. So the nerfs have to be impactful. They cannot be like the Aero nerfs or the 6-4 to 6-3 leader nerfs. That is not going to resonate well with the community. You have to make sure that the meta changes. So you can't be wrong. You can't be wrong with these changes. So hopefully they are impactful. They do make sense. We'll have to see. It should be coming out on the 21st most likely, but we don't know exactly for sure. But overall, I did want to talk about this. Check out Raven. He's a great streamer. Also a great caster. Great person in general. But that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one.
Educated calling Snap. Once you watch him, you won't go back. He'll teach you to marvel, Snap. Your skills will be